Hello, my name is Samantha Diehl, and I'm the Multimedia Production and Operations Specialist for HOMTV in Meridian Township. Today we're going to be speaking with Eric Stiles, the Associate Director of the Michigan Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. He's going to be talking with us about how important it is to have resources available for anyone experiencing domestic or sexual violence, especially during COVID-19 when many people have to be quarantined in their homes all day, every day. So Eric, my first question for you is, what exactly is it that your agency does?
We serve our membership, and we provide training and technical assistance, and they serve those who've experienced sexual violence and domestic violence across the state of Michigan. And that's one part of our agency. Another part provides legal assistance. We have a legal clinic that is called RISE. Then we have prevention, which is a huge part of ending sexual and domestic violence. We have the Delta program, as well as some other programs throughout the state with RPE. And then we have a hotline, which supports survivors of sexual violence, whether it was a day ago or 20 years ago, and that is 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
So, what are some resources people may have available to them who are experiencing domestic or sexual violence?
So some of the resources available to individuals who are experienced, and I can go through each. For sexual assault, we have our hotline, which we provide all those individuals emergency response and providing them with finding resources. And that is run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by really trained advocates. That phone number is 1-855-VOICES-4. And then we have a text number they can also use. It's 1-866-238-1454. And then we can also go on chat features online and actually find us at our website, MCEDSV.org. So we provide the emotional support and help connect them with their local resources. And that means the local centers that are providing support during this time of COVID-19, which all centers are all still running in the state of Michigan, as well as national resources or resources for their family and friends. If they are experiencing domestic violence, they can also call our hotline, or they can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which will refer them right back to their resources, and that's 1-800-799-7233.
April is National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Are you guys kind of doing anything for that, like any educational stuff, even though we can't do things in person?
Yes, on social media, we've been taking and putting a lot of efforts into getting the messaging out there about Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I know that we are in support of local organizations. However, with COVID-19, there's a lot of just immediate need for survivors. Prior to COVID-19, individuals coming forward often face many barriers and challenges, whether it be economic barriers or cultural barriers, or not being believed. COVID-19 adds an extra layer by isolating survivors and by keeping them in a state of crisis and losing the resources to live their daily life. If you depend on the bus to get back and forth to work and you are laid off and now you're at home in isolation, those things compound and really affect your ability for healing. So we're also being responsive in Sexual Assault Awareness Month, in that everything that we are creating and doing is to support survivors in their immediate need.
Are you seeing or hearing about an increase in cases in either sexual or domestic violence now that a lot of people are having to stay quarantined in their homes?
As far as sexual violence, we're seeing an increase in survivors coming forward because they may be sheltering in place with their abuser, adult childhood sexual abuse survivor. A college student might have to go back home. So we're seeing an increase in that and how individuals are sharing. And then what we know about domestic violence is we're also seeing an increase because we're getting phone calls on our hotline in regards to sheltering in place and their abuser being there 24 hours a day and what that means. Child sexual abuse is one that we know. If you look at Katrina or you look at other mass events that have happened in our country, there's always a spike of child sexual abuse during those time periods because of that resourcing being cut down. If you think a child has a few hours a day possibly going to school, they have outside contacts, they have outside people they see, whether it be an extracurricular activity like sports or religious beliefs. Um, those sort of contacts also create a layer of protection because they're involved with other people and can talk to other people. But when children are isolated, they also experience an increase in child sexual abuse.
Obviously, they wouldn't want their abuser to know that they're reaching out. So how do you make them feel safe in doing so?
So when it comes to using our hotline and our text features, someone can reach out without their abuser knowing. They can clear their browser so they don't know they're on our chat windows. If they text us, they just delete the messages after. And it's completely anonymous. So a person can be at home and start texting us in the morning. Their abuser comes in, won't leave them alone. They can stop texting us, delete their messages, and then start right back up in the afternoon and talk to another advocate who will respond to them. So there's that layer of protection where someone won't know what they're saying. When it comes to other resources, I know the National Domestic Violence Hotline is much the same. So there's a lot of flexibility for them to reach out in those two avenues. If their phone is being controlled by their abuser, and we have heard stories that abusers are taking technology away because it completely isolates a person because they can't leave their house and there's no phone. We know that this by survivor became very creative, using computers, using other devices, or asking people to pass messages along. So that does create a larger barrier and challenge.
I know you kind of touched on this, but how important is it to keep these resources available during this time of crisis?
Extremely important because it's their only, often it's maybe one of their few and only resources available with the centers and our hotlines, because their family connections or friends that they may normally want to turn to and wish to turn to are also sheltering in place, also has limited resources, and also are going through this crisis. It cannot be understated enough that we're all living through a pandemic, and by living through something that affects every culture, every community like this, you really get isolation that just compounds and compounds on itself. So our resources are very valuable for survivors during this time period.
And is there anything else you want to say or you want people to know to wrap it up?
I want people to know to always believe survivors and to support them. And especially when children are at home during this time period, people often think children don't report, but they do. They just report in their own ways. So it's so easy when you're trying to homeschool or be there with your children to get frustrated because they're bored, because they have all this energy and they can't go out and do anything with it. So when children start disclosing, it's easy to overlook that. We're not faulting anybody, parents, grandparents, whoever the caregiver is. But take those extra couple moments if you can and start listening to a child in a different way. Ask them questions, be supportive. It's good to slow down too when we're as adults in a time of crisis, to take our time and really slow down because it affects our children as well. And by slowing down, we can support them in a way that we might hear what they're saying better. And our hotline is always there for them. Please reach out. We're there 24 hours a day.
All right, thank you so much, Eric, for talking with us today. And make sure to stay tuned into Home TV as we continue to follow the COVID-19 crisis.